We don't hit home runs on this podcast. We work station to station. I'm back with my battery mate as always, Dustin, and Quentin is joining us for, I guess, some catch up of the last, I would say, week or so. We've actually had some stuff to talk about, some negative, some positive, I think some somewhere in the middle. And Dustin, I did want to talk about first, Jeff Hoffman. On the face of it, the signing was announced, and on the face of it, it seemed like, this is a high leverage reliever we were adding to our bullpen, and then all these kind of reports kind of trickled out about failed physicals.
Yeah, I think the Blue Jays had a pretty good starting rotation. They had a decent defense, and they were looking to shore up, in two areas, obviously on offense and then in the bullpen. The bullpen was one of the worst bullpens I've ever seen in a while. And so this one is, a pretty good step, pretty big step towards filling that role, provided the shoulder, whatever issues that may or may not have been seen by Baltimore medical staff are, something or nothing to be worried about. I guess we'll see. I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. The rumors are, at least what I've seen, is that, the Baltimore is trying to use it to kind of lower the number of the offer and convince him to sign for something less. So it seems like they were still willing to sign him despite this issue. They just kind of wanted whatever it was to modify the deal.
And I think that's plausible. But apparently, back in the fall, he had an agreement with the Atlanta Braves and also failed a physical.
So twice.
Technically twice. Now,
Baltimore, and also I didn't know about that one.
Yeah. So there was I think it was a bit of a pile-on situation where, like, Robert Murray had tweeted about, oh, by the way, he failed a physical with Baltimore. And then another Atlanta Braves reporter, who I can't remember the name off the top of his head, but he kind of piled on and said, oh, by the way, like, he had an agreement with Atlanta too. But Quentin, like, you have any concerns with this?
I do. Like, it's where there's smoke, there's fire. There's got to be something. There's some type of physical ailment that Baltimore's worried about, and as well Atlanta. So he's signed, so we're all in now on Hoffman. So you got to hope he stays healthy. But it also makes me wonder, like you're paying Hoffman more than you would have Romano. Just pay Romano to retain him, and he also had questionable medical issues coming off surgery and whatever else he dealt with last year. So it's almost like a lateral move to go from Romano to Hoffman, like late inning reliever. So I don't know. I just hope he's going to be effective in the back of the bullpen. So we'll see.
Well, just for what it's worth, I mean, I think it was something on the MRI that they saw, according to what Jeff Hoffman was saying, at least in his. I think he had some kind of Zoom call when they signed him. It was basically the team's doctors saw something on the MRI, something to that effect. But he was saying that, he feels good and he doesn't feel anything. It's not like he was complaining or there was soreness or there was some kind of, concern from that perspective. So
wait till spring training, April, and, a month or two into the season, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my take on this. This was the perfect fuel for, like, the Blue Jays fan base. Oh my God, what are the Jays doing? What are the Jays doing right now? Signing someone who's failed not one but two physicals. David Sampson, former president of the Marlins, basically said every single pitcher is going to have an issue with them physically. Like, they're not going to be perfect. We're all humans. We all have little tears and bone spurs, and
especially the way pitchers throw nowadays. Like, half the pitchers throw 100, and the spin rates they're trying to throw, like, it's not like it was 20 years ago. People have damage done to their arms and shoulders.
Exactly. So I think in this case you have to trust the Blue Jays medical staff to say, like, they didn't have a concern over this, right? But it is a situation that if something does happen, right? Like, and it, it's like, well, like it's a bit of a setup in that, if something does happen, you're like, well, guys, maybe
the red flags were there.
Well, like the red flags are there, like questions are going to be asked, right? And so, I think it's, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and right now I don't have any reason to be concerned, right? But it's one of those ones that's like, this could blow up in your face. The other thing is that here's a suggestion, Quentin, because you brought up his name. How about you keep Jordan Romano and sign Jeff Hoffman, right? Like, this is like, we're trying to improve. Well, especially in a bullpen that was absolute dog shit last year, as Dustin said, right? Add him to Yimi Garcia and Chad Green. Like, to me, having Hoffman and Jordan Romano, and that might create an issue in terms of who's going to be your closer. I think you can kind of sort that out. I think Jordan Romano's a pretty reasonable person, but
that's a good problem to have.
Very good. It's it is quote unquote one of those good problems to have, but it's just one of those, it's one of those ones where it's like, if something goes wrong, everybody's going to pile on, right? Everybody's going to make an issue of this. And I don't know, we'll see, right? And I think with a lot of these moves, I do think that some fans are definitely looking to pile on the team in a negative way. And I definitely think there are some fans that are like looking to, this is a great move. And it's like, okay, it's a great move if it like works out. Right. And we're going to talk about, another signing here in a little bit, right? That seem, on the face of it seems to be a good signing, but like if the Jays miss the playoffs, who fucking cares? Right.
That's what it's all about.
Actually, it doesn't matter. Right. Anyway. So Jeff Hoffman, let's all keep our fingers crossed the next, 6-7 months?
I don't want to rehash the Romano thing, but he was injured last year. So, I mean, we're talking about somebody who's coming off an injury. Who knows how he's going to be. And, this is a guy in Jeff Hoffman that, is a multi-time All-Star. A first-time All-Star last year, who's, literally one of the best relief pitchers in the league. And, there's an iffy kind of shoulder thing, but I don't know if he can do the job, then this is a gorgeous signing. And it's if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, there's always going to be, those fans that, find any reason to hate.
Any signing, there's always ifs. There's always something that could happen, whether it's health related or other things.
On the Romano thing, I was reading that I think I guess it was leading into last year. Like he knew that something was awry. And I almost felt like maybe, I don't know, it seemed a little bit disingenuous almost that he came into camp like kind of hoping things were okay, and no, they weren't okay. And the season dropped out very quickly. Let's talk about, I guess, a player. Well, I don't really want to talk about the player, but I want to talk about the situation. And that was Roki Sasaki, the player that I guess is never going to be a J. Dustin, there a lot of fear online about this one too.
Second place again.
Well, I was saying to Rob on Monday, it's like another Monday morning after the Jays lose out to the Dodgers on another Japanese player.
Been here before.
Yeah, I've been here. I've been here before. I was relaxing on the couch when I saw a bunch of messages come in on Friday night that it wasn't happening. Dustin, can you give me your thoughts?
My thoughts are that, I'm glad that they're trying. I'm a little bit kind of perplexed at why it always seems like it's like the Blue Jays as the second place. What happened was like there was this trickle of like teams that were getting eliminated. It was like, first it was like, I don't know what was first, but I heard, Yankees, he's not going to the Yankees. And then it's like, he's not going to that team. And then, it's Blue Jays and Padres and Dodgers, their final three. oh, not going to the Padres. It's like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just like, I don't know. I just didn't understand it.
I find this very strange as well, in that this doesn't really happen in other sports, right? You know, you get a player who's like linked with certain teams, right? And then they end up going to a team. There's not like this kind of, you know, Final Four bracket,
sweepstakes,
right?
You know,
Sweepstakes and bracket where, you know, like, oh, we got it in the you know, the Elite Eight. We got the Yankees, you know, Red Sox, Dodgers, whatever, and in the final we got the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. I don't know. Is it? Do you think it's writers creating something that isn't something?
No. This was coming from whatever Roki's camp, I think. Or his, it was, I don't know, it was coming from somewhere with him. It seemed like a little bit like it was always going to be the Dodgers, and he just wanted to, I don't even know, like, why, like, are you really pumping up the money that much or something? Like, what was the point of that all?
It seemed inevitable. It's like Ohtani. You always felt that it was inevitable. He's going to go to the Dodgers.
I think the whole process was bullshit, okay? I think he was always going to the Dodgers, and I think the whole process was complete and utter BS. But the reason you do this is they don't want the Dodgers to get in trouble, essentially, because North American sports is obsessed with everyone having a chance and being equal, right? So the whole process is meant to be like, well, they don't want teams directly going to players and, you know, all this stuff happening. It's like there's a posting process and there's all this, when really probably all along he was going to the Dodgers, right? And, you know, I think this mirage was created by Joel Wolf, his agent, right? And that's what he's paid to do, right? He's paid to make the most amount of money and get this player where that player wants to be. And I think he wanted to be in LA all along. Because if you go through some of the stuff he was saying, he was talking about how he wanted to be a star, how he didn't want to be in a big market, you know, like you could just keep on going and going, and like none of this makes sense, right? Like none of this makes sense. Like you literally went to the biggest market, the biggest team with like the most amount of other stars. It just never made any sense. And so
closer to Japan.
Well, yeah, it's the West Coast.
That means
so it's closer to Japan.
Yeah,
that definitely means something. But what I'm saying is that I think the whole process was BS. I think it was all a mirage to, you know, lead to and you know what? I was never upset by it. I was never upset by it one bit because I never thought he was coming here. It just, to me, it never made any sense. Even though in some ways I think the mirage that was created did make sense, where it was like he's looking for someone to develop his pitching, and he gave all these teams like a homework assignment, like, can you figure out why my velo's gone down by 2 clicks, right? All this, you know, like, I don't know. It seemed like a lot of work to just like end up with the Dodgers.
Yeah. I think here's what confuses me now, because if that's true, let's say what you're saying is true, the Blue Jays have to know that, no? Or are they totally in the dark? Why are they making a deal for a AAA player?
They put so much work in, though. So much time and resources went into just trying to sell the guy on Toronto.
And then they made a deal with Cleveland to clear $2 million
or to add money to their international pool.
Right. Why would they do that?
Because they thought they had a chance. They thought they were in it. They thought like,
well, there's two different outcomes here, right? There's two different things. So it's either they felt they had a chance, or they're fucking idiots, right? Like they didn't read the room, right? And they just, that's the two different options.
Well, they're trying. You got to give them credit. They're trying, like, doing whatever they can just to make something happen.
And he did take less money to be a Dodger. Like, I think it was just under $2 million less, I believe.
Yeah. So it was all irrelevant, the Jays making that deal.
I'm more upset at a deal that doesn't make any sense than upset at, like, you know, they're picking up $11 million for a player that's, you know, essentially like Dalton Varsho light.
Yeah, I don't care about the money on that thing. What I care about on that is just that it's just I don't know, it's just stupid. It's just, why do that?
The other thing is, Dustin, is that LA did make a trade for money, but you know when it went through? After they confirmed the player.
Exactly.
Right? So basically other teams made it contingent. They basically put a clause in the contract or the deal that said like this trade is pending the fact that we can get, such and such. Right? And the Jays didn't, do that. I think part of it is I think they had a chance, and I think they said, well, if we get this money and we make this public trade, it's like, wow, we got more money, and like so that
It'll
was like
show
they're
him
trying
that
to
we're
signal.
serious, blah, blah. Like,
Well, it was like a
cares, though?
signal because you can't. I don't know until he decides on who he's gonna go to. I don't think you can like really communicate with him. So I think it was like trying to signal. I don't know. I just don't make any sense.
It was just clumsy. That's what I felt about it.
Clumsy, yeah. That's minimum that.
Because I saw that and I was like, oh, they're clear. I thought that was like, okay, something's in the works. It is serious.
Ohtani's getting on the plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, but at the same time, when it happened, he went to the Dodgers. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's right. Did you guys hear who was involved when they had the meetings in Toronto to pitch the Blue Jays to Sasaki?
Yeah, Bo.
Like player wise, yeah, Bo. Like, what does that tell you? Like the fact that he'd make the effort to come to Toronto to.
I think it tells you he gives a shit. I don't know if it means
Does he have long-term intentions, like in his like future with the Blue Jays, or like what? It doesn't sound like a guy who's ready to be traded or wants to be traded or just playing the season out and then move on to free agency. It sounds like somebody who's still like kind of he wants to make things happen here and maybe be part of this team and build a contender.
I think he does. I think that kind of there's a lot of fan sentiment that Bo is like uncaring or he just wants to move on and he doesn't care really about, he only cares. Like, I think that's all bullshit. I think he cares about this team. He wants to be a Blue Jay. But he also recognizes that it's a business. His father was in the business. And so, he knows that he probably stands to make the most money going to free agency. If the Blue Jays put the most money up in free agency, I'm sure he'll sign with them. So, I don't give that any credence either way. I think Bo does care about winning this year. I think he's going to try his hardest, especially being a contract year.
Well, yeah.
But
he's got the
also
motivation
because he wants to win with the boys. I mean, I think, the last few playoff sort of exits, I know we've seen Vladdy very upset, sitting in the stands, but Bo seemed to be upset about those losses too. So, I don't kind of buy this kind of aloof Bo narrative that people try and spin.
Two things can be true at the same time, right? Like, I think he can say, yeah, I don't really see my future here. But I'm still going to, play it out, right? Like that's what a professional does, right? And so let me ask you, Rob messaged me on Monday morning, and he said, would you be okay if they traded Vladdy and signed Bo to the long-term deal?
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It depends if they can't meet Vladdy's number. Like Vladdy has a number, he's basically drawn like a line in the sand. Like if the Blue Jays come to me with this number, I'll sign the dotted line. So if for whatever reason they can't reach that number, but Bo is more attainable, then
his interest aside, if you're gonna put a dollar figure on both players, I think Bo Bichette is significantly more attainable. Now, does that he may say thanks, but I'm still gonna bet on myself, and he'll go to free agent. He might do that, right?
Sure.
It seems like a lot of players seem to like to go that route. And rather than, because the thing is if you put, I don't know, $250 million on the table, is that's a lot of money to turn down, right? And that's the thing is like that might be one of the gutsy moves that I can't remember if it was Quentin or Kreger that said that last episode, but that would be pretty gutsy. It's like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna switch the tables a bit.
That would be fine. I mean, I as long as the Bo we saw last year isn't the Bo we see in the future, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And if you have somebody who's going to sort of compete for the league lead in hits, and he plays a premium position at shortstop. But, of course you want that guy long term. I'd love them to sign Bo and Vladdy. But if I had to choose one, I mean, either one would be all right. I'd probably want to choose Vladdy over Bo. Like if you kind of gun to my head, made me choose one, just because he has such a higher ceiling, and there, power is not very cheap in this league right now, and Vladdy seems to be excited about being a Toronto Blue Jay. So I think I'd rather have him, but yeah, of course I'd love Bo long term for sure.
A quality shortstop's good to have too. He's not the best shortstop in the league, but if he goes, you got to replace him.
Hear me out here. We sign Bo to a 10-year deal and then flip him with Jimenez and put him at second base.
Yeah, he'll love that.
It's a string attached, Quentin. It's like, here's the money we're going to give you, but we have a better shortstop than you, so we're going to put you at second base. I don't think that would go over well, but, just throwing it out there.
Jimenez is a Gold Glover, right? He might be better as a shortstop, but...
Platinum Glover. As you touched on there, Dustin, getting bats is expensive, and convincing players to come to Toronto seems to be increasingly difficult. But they did manage to get one over the line this week. Anthony Santander has signed for 5 years. That's what got it over the line, was that additional year. And it appears that the Jays have picked up that big bopper that we've been kind of desiring last year. not even this offseason. We kind of been wanting that kind of type of player for quite some time.
Yeah, this is perfect signing. This is exactly what we needed. This is somebody that at least I think when our first discussion about this offseason, we talked about him as a great option. And he comes with close to 45 home runs. Not great defense, but he's going to, put it in the air, and we have already got a lot of defense. So that's exactly what you need. Yeah, I'm just kind of amazed by a lot of the people kind of out there, like the lack of enthusiasm about this signing. Maybe it's just all the disappointment that's happened over the last few years, and it's just like, oh, okay, finally. It seems, it feels like people already kind of had it in their heads that he is already a Blue, like, oh yeah, of course he's going to be a Blue Jay. And so when he signed, it's like, okay, there it is. Finally, I don't know. I think this it makes the team so much better. I think we're at I was telling you in text, I think we're at a compete for the wild card position. We're back at that level, which I think we were way under that before this.
Yeah, I like it. Like we talked about, he was on my list for 9 free agents under the category of for the right price, and I think they got the right price. In this case, I think letting things play out a little longer benefited the Jays. I think he was kind of going back and forth in terms of term, amount per season. He wanted longer term and shorter term at more per, but I think it worked out for the Jays, and they got a good deal. 5 years and team option for 6, which is always good for the team to have in your back pocket. Yeah, he's a guy you can hit home runs, drive in runs, and we've seen that him playing against the Blue Jays. So to remove him from a division rival and come to your side, that's a benefit, because I've seen him hit a lot of important hits for the Orioles playing the Jays. So it's good to see him for the Jays and have a middle lineup guy with some power. He's not the fastest guy in the league, but you take when you're hitting home runs, it doesn't matter how fast you are. If you're driving the ball into a gap for an RBI double, it doesn't matter. Speed is not as relevant. So take the good with the bad. Plus, I think we have Miles Straw. He's quick, so he can be a pinch hitter in 9th inning when Santander gets on with the game on the line. Maybe you can put Straw in to a pinch run. So there's options for speed. So yeah, overall, I like it. I'm happy with the signing, and hopefully it's a step in the right direction.
Dustin, I'm gonna address the lack of enthusiasm. I think there was a bit of relief where it's like, oh, like, they finally they got a fish on the hook and they were able to reel it in, right? But I also think that he's the kind of level of player that you would expect the Jays to sign. Like I don't know if like they're not bringing in a player, like they're not bringing in the best hitter available. Do you know what I mean? Or the best pitcher available. Like this seems to be like the type of a player in this free agency was very attainable. And I'm not dogging the signing. I actually quite like it. Quentin, he was also on my list. So we both got a point. We're both ahead of everybody for our offseason predictions of players. But like he's a Jays killer. I like that, right? Gotta get another Jays killer on the team. But yeah, I just wanted a player that could, slug, right? And I think it was long overdue. I think in some ways since Teo was traded, we didn't have that player, and we finally got a player of a similar profile. And I don't know. I think it's just the caliber. Also, I think people are so pissed off with his front office, Dustin. Like I think they're one of the most hated front offices in the history of Toronto sports. And, I don't know if we have time to hash out if that's warranted or not. Like, I don't particularly like them, but I think that's also part of it too.
I don't think it's warranted. I see, like, I know you're not going to share my take, Alex, but like, they're also victims. They're victims to these high-end free agents. They're victims to big money agents. They're victims to the higher market teams, the Yankees, the Dodgers, like the Red Sox, Mets, so they're putting the work in to like recruit these players, but it's just Toronto, man. Like it's difficult.
It is definitely difficult. I'm not going to argue on that.
I do want to touch on something you said there. He's not the best bat available. I want to know, other than obviously Juan Soto, who was better than him that's available? Like,
Alonso.
What's a better
debate?
Fit?
Alonso first base. His name's been thrown in to rumors.
Like I just think that this is like player that the Jays should sign, and that's why people are like, oh, okay, well, yeah, like you signed him. Do you know what I mean? That's all. So I think he's a great pickup.
Yeah, but he was a top 10. Like he was one of the top 10 free agents available. I mean, you could say maybe Alex Bregman, who's still available, by the way, who could still get signed. Yeah, but he's the only other one that I would say is probably a better fit at third base, which is something the Jays need, and a nice hitter.
He's still out there. So is Alonso. Like they're still out there. So who knows?
Exactly. Like I don't think they're stopping. And, they were a little creative with the deal. I think they deferred some money. So that might open them up for having some availability to sign somebody else, or maybe extend Vladdy. I know he's not from the Dominican Republic, but he is a Latin South American player. I heard that Vladdy was excited that he signed, and I think that opens up that possibility. Well, we'll see, I guess, if he signs or not. But I think that opens up that possibility, and maybe it signals that the front office does want to try and do what they can to get Vladdy signed, because they're spending money and they're spending. This is part of me feels like this is a little bit. I know that others would interpret it as desperate, but I think Ross Atkins, sees this as probably his last kick at the can to really do something and save his job and not get fired. So he's going to try and go all out and, maybe go beyond those numbers and the valuations.
I'm going to go to Quentin on this first. Let's talk about where he's going to play and how this lineup is going to come together.
He's left fielder. Is that what he played in Baltimore?
He was a right fielder.
Right fielder, okay. Middle lineup guy, like cleanup, batting fifth, behind Vladdy or Varsho or somewhere in the middle of the lineup.
So, but hold on, before we go like the batting order. So you see him as a corner outfielder.
Yeah, I don't have much reference to his defensive experience, but yeah, corner outfielder.
He's not a great defensive outfielder. I mean, he's serviceable, obviously. I mean, kind of, I guess you could think of, what's his name? Teoscar Hernandez is a good comp for him.
So DH might be an option some days.
Dustin, do you see him as a corner outfielder or fitting somewhere else?
Obviously, he's going to play the outfield on occasions. I mean, as we've talked about in the past, the Blue Jays are one of those teams that mix and match and move around and like to be flexible. But I would guess that, somewhere between 80 and 90% of his games are going to be at DH, unless they sign somebody else. The only other kind of caveat to that would be like what we had talked about over text about like who's going to be the leadoff guy if Springer can't hack it this year. And, one of the suggestions was somebody like Will Wagner could be a good leadoff player if he can, hit, and he doesn't have a great position. And so Will Wagner as the DH leadoff might be something that they try and get creative to do, and then put Santander in the outfield. So in those cases, or even somebody like Ernie Clement or something as the leadoff. But I think if Springer can kind of be serviceable, then I think you have him at DH for most of the year.
I did look up before we came on air, and so last year with the Orioles, 130 games in right field, 1 inning at first base. I feel like you're signing him as a corner outfielder, but yeah, I imagine he's going to feature at designated hitter. I was a little surprised when you said 80 to 90%, just because of where he's come from. Like he's almost always played in right field. So does Springer flip to left? How are they going to do this? Just more fun problems for John Schneider to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want Clement in the lineup. I guess it's still a little foggy to me because, we don't know if they're going to sign somebody for third.
Yeah, what if they sign a Pete Alonso? Maybe it's a long shot. Then you have Vladdy at third, like more games than not, and Alonso at first, and
exactly. Or
back and forth to the DH,
and then if they sign Alonso, then I would see Santander in the outfield for sure, more often than not. So I think it all depends. I think again, Blue Jays like to be flexible. Maybe it's more like 50% of the time, and he's just kind of rotating that DH spot with people like Will Wagner and Clement and I forget Luperfido. Because my vision for the outfield would be Springer, Varsho, and Loperfido. That's what I had assumed the outfield would be for most of the games. That's why I put him at DH. But we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, but you don't want to monopolizing a DH spot either. You want to have that spot open and be flexible with it.
Well, that seems like what teams like to do these days, right? It's kind of just DH is like, who's not going to play the field today? We'll put him there. Let's talk. Okay, so batting order. Well, I do think this is a very good signing for the Jays. Like, I don't know if it really solves a lot in terms of the order. Like, you're definitely still putting Springer in the number 1 hole there, Dustin, to start the season?
Me? No, I'm not doing that. But
okay, you're not.
I'm
all
sure
right.
Schneider is doing that.
Schneider.
So, Quentin, are you okay with George Springer starting the season as a leadoff hitter?
For now, if he gets on base consistently, but I'd be open to like adjustments as the season progresses. Okay,
so if George Springer is 2024 George Springer and not, George Springer of prior years, we need a leadoff hitter, right? Or, what I had suggested in the past is, do you move Bo Bichette to the leadoff, right? Because
which he's done before if he's healthy, and he's always a candidate for leadoff.
Then you have Bo first. I guess you have Vladdy second, and then Santander hitting third. I don't know.
That's what I don't like about that.
That's what I don't like about it. And that's the thing is like So as much as like I feel like this is a good addition, I'm like, what does this solve? I feel like there's more issues with the order that still remain, because I almost want to like put Santander always as the cleanup hitter. I want to put Vladdy always as the number 3 guy, and then like is it like Bo and whoever else is like playing well in 1-2? I don't know. Like this is another one where I think there's going to be some challenges this year.
I think it'll shake out in spring training / first month. I mean, I think options are obviously Springer's going to have the kind of the first kick at the can there. We talked about Will Wagner, if he can kind of find a defensive spot to stick, and, if he does well with his bat, enough that you can't kind of take him out of the lineup, then he's a great spot there. The other option, maybe someone like Ernie Clement, I don't know, not Aurelvis Martinez, the new second base, Andres Jimenez. He could maybe lead off.
No, I don't think he's good enough to be a leadoff hitter, Dustin.
Yeah, I know you don't.
He's like a 7 or 8 hitter, really. Like I don't think we're getting. I'm happy to be wrong, but I just don't know if he's top of the order type hitter.
Yeah, you need a good on base percentage, and he might not be quite that.
Well, who has that? Like, that's the question, right?
That's why I said Bo, right? That's why I said Mookie Betts leads off for the Dodgers, right? So like, why? I don't know. Why is Bo? Why are we so nailed? But why are we so nailed on that Bo has to be number 2? Do you know what I mean?
I'm not. Who hits second then? You kind of just move that down the road, right? Because or it's Bo, Vladdy, Santander, and then, whoever.
Let's actually put this together. So do we think Springer's going to be leading off to start the year? I think he is.
Probably.
Not that I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beginning. So
Springer 1, Bo's 2, Vladdy's 3. We're going to agreement there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Tony Taters. Did you see this?
I've seen this.
Oh my God. It's so, come on. We got to get a better nickname for Santander. But so Tony Taters in the cleanup. And then I don't know who Quentin, you suggested that he was that Santander could be a 5 hitter. Who do you put in the cleanup then? Like, I don't even know who's the 5th hitter on this team now.
It was never really consistent who the cleanup hitter was last year, was it? Like, it was kind of...
Well, no.
It just shuffled things around a lot. I think then Alejandro Kirk some days was...
The only thing that was consistent last year was that they were bad.
You're going to have Kirk, Varsho, and then whoever's in, the other outfield spot, Loperfido and or Andres Jimenez. Those are your options for the final 4 after the first 5, right?
It's 5, right? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And really, Jimenez, Varsho, Kirk, none of those 3 really kind of yell out to me that they're a 5th hole guy. I guess are we putting Kirk in there? Are we going to put Kirk in there?
I think you put whoever's hitting well. Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, Joey Loperfido, you kind of, those are the guys. Those are the guys who are in those bottom of the order.
Yeah, those guys have shown flashes of good hitting, maybe not consistently, but they go on a streak and stick them up there in the lineup, clean up spot or wherever. So take it day by day, I guess. That's why John Schneider makes the big bucks.
Well, we got to sign Alex Bregman.
Yeah, there you go. It makes it easier.
I think they need another bat, right?
They need one more, I think, yeah.
They need one more, and I'm looking at this, and it's just okay, you got 3 guys that can hit, and then it's kind of like rolling dice with the rest of them, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of what happens. I mean, so you just hope you get somebody with a career year, and
sometimes guys catch fire, and that's teams that go to the playoffs. It's not always their main core players that get them there. There's always 1 or 2 guys that catch fire, and can contribute.
But Quentin, 1 or 2 guys, not 5, right?
And I mentioned him earlier. Elvis Martinez might, come up and finally be something this year.
Yeah, he's excited in the new environment, playing Toronto, and maybe he hits 300.
No, but this is why when they made the trade for Jimenez, I was like, I was significantly put off because I was like, oh, can we get this isn't really a guy that can statistically. He had 1 good year, signed a big deal, and most of it is like, it's not that great. And so that's why I was kind of put off at the time, where it's like this doesn't really solve any problems. Now, Elvis Martinez sounds like a nice 5th hole hitter to me, but I don't know. I think we might have to dive deeper into like the amount of names that we've mentioned in the last 5 minutes. Loperfido, Will Wagner, Elvis Martinez, Ernie Clement,
Barger,
right? No one's mentioned David Schneider, but like I don't know.
David Schneider, Jonathan Clase, Nathan Lucas.
Yeah, Jonathan Clase. But
what's his name? Bastardo or whatever. Or he's
Bastardo, yeah, the fit, yeah. But like that's the thing is like that's a lot of names, and there's not enough roster spots for all these guys. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's why there's bench guys.
Well, yes, but like there are bench guys, but like there is a limit to how many guys that you can have, on the roster and that can actually play, right? Or at least give opportunities to play.
Well, that's why you have spring training. Look at guys and see who you like.
Well, I would just rather that it's like less musical chairs, less like of a wild card in that who's gonna make it. As I said, 1 or 2 spots is like, that would be nice, right? And I do remember talking about with Dustin, was it last year or the year before, where we felt good because the lineup was basically set. We didn't need to worry about all of this. And now in the course of 2 years, it's kind of like we have the, top maybe 3 to 4 spots filled, and then after that it's kind of choose your own adventure.
I think we have more than 3 filled. I think there's
there are other players that have to play and have to be
right. Alejandro Kirk is going to get a lot of play.
Yeah, and Dalton Varsho is going to have to if he's going to play center field, he has to hit, right?
Better than 220.
Do you know what I mean? Is like, so you're going to put him in 7, 8, 9, like.
No, well, you hope Varsho can hit well enough to hit 5, right? Like, well, maybe he has a bounce back and a breakout. Who knows?
I want Dalton Varsho to do just that. I just don't think I don't think we can count on that. So just to wrap things up, we now have another Blue Jay with a father who is a Hall of Famer, Will Wagner. Will Wagner's dad, Billy Wagner, just before we recorded, was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame on his 10th try. So his 10th and final try, he got over the 75% vote total.
Right down to the wire.
Right down to the wire. Got the right amount of votes, and he will be going into the Hall of Fame with CC Sabathia and Ichiro Suzuki. So I'm sure Will's tickled tonight. Probably having some drinks somewhere, celebrating, right? But any comments on any of those players? Any memories in particular at all?
What happened to Barry Bonds, Clemens? Are they done? Have they already exhausted their 10 tries?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know, but I think the baseball writers have kind of just decided that they're not doing it. They're not playing.
Yeah, I think their option to get in is I think there's some way that the alumni can vote you in.
Yeah, it's like road. After the fact. Yeah, way down the road or something. So yeah,
that's their option. I don't know. No memories about Billy Wagner or, Ichiro is obviously just a staple of our kind of teenage years as one of the best players ever. One of the greatest arms. Incredible. So obviously, no doubter, first ballot. That's deserved.
He was 1 vote short of being unanimous, Dustin. Who's that
Ichiro?
one vote?
Yeah.
Who's that one vote?
Should be a no-brainer.
Jeez.
I want it to be like Jeff Blair. I want it to be Jeff Blair so I could hear about it tomorrow, tomorrow during the day. Here's why. And, it's like, okay, Jeff, thanks for that.
I think Ichiro had more hits than P. Rose if you include his Japanese professional record.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And that's pretty cool.
I remember one time P. Rose was approached with that, and somebody asked him, like, what do you think about Ichiro? I have more hits than you, but including Japanese. And P. Rose said, should we count high school stats too?
Oh, wow.
So he kind of took it like,
Okay, bro.
basically like saying Japanese professional baseball is compared to the major leagues.
It's not high school, but it's not. Yeah,
No.
It is a little different out there. But
Let's wrap it up there. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.